second attempt. Okay, neutral. No! Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of number 27. Specifically, you'll be pleased to hear, just on the Influenzo, me working on this car. No taking out, doing road tests or comparisons, but what you all seem to love most, which is me failing to fix it. So there's a few things that need looking at. The first is the fuse box. That's a really classic weak area on 308s. Classic retrofit, and you'll find the link in my description, have sent me a new set to try. So I'm going to get together and fix that. One of the things you will notice from that is that on the set that I was sent, I had to solder a wire across two of the top connections. If you get one of these kits, you won't have to do that because Johnny from Retrofit will supply a jumper cable, a piggyback cable that can be used for that if you need to do it. Then driving the Influenzo back to back with other cars has highlighted that I think that the chassis could do with a little bit of sharpening. I'm going to have a look at the various options to this. Now it could be that maybe it's going to be some new shocks, maybe slightly lower springs as well, nothing mental but a little bit lower. Or it could also be that just changing the bushings and having a look at the steering rack is what's needed. In any case, I'm going to get it up on a lift and we'll have a look together. Have a look at the condition of everything on that side and see what needs to be fettled and changed to improve the way it drives a little bit. Lastly, the handbrake has never really worked, and I know they're atrocious as standard, but on this one, I'm sure I can improve it a bit, so I'm going to do some work on that. And then actually, it wasn't lastly, there is the oil line going to the oil cooler, and I already had two big fails trying to get that off and sort that out. And this week, hopefully I'll be able to get that oil line out and then go to hydraulic supplies place, get a new line made up and get that oil leak fixed once and for all. I'm going to start off this week by replacing these fuse boxes finally. So what I need to do is take these off, check for any that are interlinked, make sure that they are also interlinked on the fuse boxes that I have. If they're not interlinked, I need to make a jumper cable, then I need to fit them. I've started off by numbering all the plugs to make sure that I can remember where they all go because I hate electrics and I don't want to be caught out. Got the fuse boxes out and I'm going to do the testing, but you can see the difference between the two. And the thing that happens with these original ones is that these contacts are sort of riveted in. You can see actually at the back where they are continuous, so that makes it weird but quite easy for me to double check. And I think I already know there's only one bit that I'm going to have to jumper at the top there, which is different. All the rest of them look like they match up. But the way these are riveted together, eventually over time a resistance builds in those little rivets there. It heats up, the plastic melts, and then they fail completely. All the same, there is always a resistance there, plus the way that these are held in place isn't great either, so it's always best to change to a blade type fuse box like this. So you don't actually even need the multimeter, as I've realised. All you do is check on the back and you can see the original ones, which ones are jumpered together at the top there. So these three and then 2 and 2 and 2. On the classic retrofit ones, the ones that are jumpered together are shown there by a solid line. So there's a solid line, single, then a double, double, double. So the main issue here is that these three are jumpered together on the original, but not on the classic retrofit. So I'm just going to make a jumper to unite these three. The rest of them all match up. So it's 2, 2, 2, and 3 together. And on the classic retrofit, it's 2, 2, 2, and then 3 together. So that's absolutely fine. Again, your own cars may differ, so you always need to double check that. Right, I've welded a little bit of wire between these two that then connects all three because these two are already connected together. There is an easier way of doing it, just using a jumper cable, so connecting the leads on top in the car, but I just wanted to forget it sort of thing, and that's what I've done. Okay, now ready to install. Don't forget to use the backing plates that are supplied, because obviously it's the back of the PC board there, so there's exposed contacts. So you put those on, and then there are these clear coverings that are just for show really, because you don't need them with these blade fuses. But there is fitted. One of the neat things about this is that if one of the bulbs is blown, it actually shows you. So there's one missing altogether. That's the AC, which I've disconnected anyway, but if you switch the AC on, no bulbs, obviously it shows you that if there was a fuse there, it would show you that it was blown. So that's really neat. And here I did put a fuse in, and I didn't realise that it had blown, and I only realised with this fuse box. So if I put in a new fuse, there we go, the light goes off. So that's a really handy thing as well, to quickly see if there's any issue and try out the various bits. The fuel pump is obviously working, windscreen wipers are working, lights, indicators are working, everything seems to be working. Let's try the radio. Actually, the radio isn't working. Whoa, radio working, so that's good. It was basically because it seems to be taking a feed from the same fuse as the aircon unit, and I'd removed that fuse, so that's all that was. But on the whole, I'm very happy with these. Obviously going to have to trial them out properly, use the car for a while, but they look really well made. I love the feature of having the little LEDs so that you know if one of your bulbs is blown, or God, I keep saying bulbs, if one of your fuses is blown. Yeah, so all good really. A few of you in the last video came up with an excellent idea, and that is to raise the air filter, therefore leaving a gap in the airbox through which sound can come. Now, I've done it a different way. I've put some foam liner around the lid, which still then leaves a gap there, but still maintains the filtering. So it's a bit of an in-between really. I don't think it won't be as loud as having an open air box, but it should do something, and the air is still filtered. Some of it will come in through the sides, but a lot will still be the cold air coming from here. So it's a nice sort of compromise solution that we'll try. Having failed miserably to get that oil line out at the second attempt, I'm going to try and adjust the parking brake, which has been on my list. It really does almost next to nothing. I've already tried to adjust the actual line like you would on a normal parking brake, but that hasn't made any difference. It can't be adjusted far enough without dragging to make the parking brake work. So the next thing to do on these is that the calipers at the back have some screw adjusters for the pads, so that they adjust the take-up of the pads. These guides are quite worn on each side, and I've got some replacement, so I'm going to change those as well. Okay, essentially has to be adjusted with the lock nut until it is 0.1 of a millimetre from the disc, which is pretty much what that is. So that's pretty good. That's adjusted. Well, there, cleaned up the pins and put a tiny bit of copper slip where they touch the pads to make sure there's no binding. Okay, first test is going to be, will the handbrake hold? It's holding it on my drive, and it feels, oh no, it's starting to move back. Well, it's slightly improved. I know it's moving. Oh, I might actually tighten the handbrake a little bit more and try it again. Second attempt. Okay. Neutral. No! Okay, well, the handbrake is definitely better, a little bit better, but it's still marginal as an improvement. So, I don't know. I think I can adjust the passenger side rear caliper a little bit closer, and I will probably be doing that. But apart from that, let's see airbox noise. it's an okay compromise as well, because it's not too sort of loud the rest of the time. And maybe I can come up with a more permanent airbox mod to achieve that, rather than just using that foam spacer, but it makes it a little bit better. The oil is drained, and I've already tried to cut into that bolt on the oil cooler to see if I could get it off in situ, and I can't. So I'm going to get the whole cooler out with both pipes and then try and get that pipe off once the cooler is out. Well, I finally got it off. I had to cut the nut in the end to open it up. This is an aluminium fitting and this is steel, so obviously it had corroded on to some extent, but it's not too bad and it still looks reusable on this side, so that is great. But that wasn't easy to take off, so tomorrow we'll go down to the hydraulics place, the farm supplies place, and get them to make up another one of these. Ongoing fail with this oil line. So the place I went to, the sort of farm supplies place, didn't have quite the right fittings to make it up, so they told me go to Silverstone. Earls is there, they specialise in doing various hydraulic lines, they'll be able to do it. Just come back from Earls and they can't do it either, so I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and just order it from Superformance at about 160 quid delivered, but there's no way around it really, just got to do it. So a day of fails. Well, it's done. Finally, that oil line is changed. That was so much more trouble than I expected. 3 massive spanners later that I had to buy an oil line from Superformance that I had to bite the bullet and buy. In the end, it was about £180, but it's done, and we can now look at something a bit more interesting, which is having a look at the state of health of the chassis, the various bushes suspension, and some possible tweaks going forward. So I'm here at JS Motors in Kidlington, and the guys here have been super helpful as always and are allowing me to use the lift. And I had a look around with Eugene, who runs the place, and straight away we found the main culprit for what I suspect is a bit of the dodgy handling. And what it is, that top joint, the top ball joint, is completely gone. So I'll be replacing this one and the one on the other side. The one on the other side doesn't have anywhere like this amount of play, but that's definitely going to be done. When I do that front knuckle, at the same time I will also be changing the joint there for the drive shaft, which is also leaking. The steering rack itself, which I was a bit worried about, has a tiny bit of play in it, but it's actually not that bad at all, and I really think that changing that top ball joint is going to make a massive difference. So that's one of those jobs I've mentioned that actually I'm really looking forward to doing, because it's going to make a material difference to how this car drives, which will just be, it'll just be fab. So I'm going to have a look at prices and then come back here to fit it in a few days. If you live in Oxford, I really recommend JS Motors. They've been hugely helpful to me, and my stepdad also uses them for his Audi. They're really great guys, so do pay them a call if you have an MOT or if you have any work that needs doing on your car, because I really do trust them. Well, once again, a pretty productive day, I think. I'm really pleased with that. So, sort of getting there. So we found that top joint is, ball joint is gone, so that should make a huge improvement to the way it drives once I'll replace both, even though the other one hasn't gone. And a few other bits and bobs. And by the way, on Monday, so 2 days from now, I am going to Reef Exhaust and we are going to get the custom back box made up. So keep an eye out for the next episode, because it's going to be a cracker. Thank you so much for following, for listening, for viewing all this stuff that I do. And yeah, please subscribe to my Instagram and see you for the next video.